This episode of The Witch Wave is brought to you by Woodland Magic. Hand-poured in small batches by an escaped academic turned candle maker, Woodland Magic candles are deeply inspired by nature, folklore, mythology, and literature. This year, they've cooked up magical winter scents to help you embrace the dark season ahead, including bright and festive blends like Yule, Wassail, and Simmerpot, as well as woody, smoky, and dark blends like Hearth, Woodland Wreath, and Winter Hollow. All Woodland Magic candles are made with 100% soy wax and non-toxic fragrances, and they're available at awoodlandmagic.com. Orders of $100 or more come with free shipping, and Witchwave listeners receive 10% off their orders with code WitchWave10. That's awoodlandmagic.com. Hey there. So people are always asking me how they can get more Witchwave, how they can work with me, how they can find magical community. And my answer is join the Witchwave Patreon. There is where you'll get bi-weekly bonus Witchwave Plus episodes, as well as ad-free Witchwave episodes and detailed show notes for all. The Witchwave Patreon is also where I lead a monthly online magical ritual, which you can attend live or watch the recording of at your convenience. And that's available for members at all tiers. And then rewards for some other tiers also include magical merch and contests where you can win Witchly prizes, as well as getting early heads up about my workshops before they sell out, and opportunities to get magical one-on-one guidance from me. And all backers get access to our exclusive digital coven, where you can connect to a community of other wonderful Witchwave witches around the world. So head on over to patreon.com/witchwave and sign up. It's a marvelous way to get more magic in your life and to support the show. Thank you so much.
The world is filled with bewitching people, and you might be one too. Welcome to the podcast where art is magic, magic is real, and reality is stranger than dreams. I'm Pam Grossman, and this is The Witch Wave.
Hello, and welcome to the Witch Wave. My gods, how things can change in the span of just a couple weeks. Since my last Witch Wave episode, we have elected a new mayor here in New York City, Mayor-elect Mamdani, and I could not be more excited about it. And on a personal note, I was on the West Coast for a week doing Magic Maker book events in LA and Seattle. That's why my voice probably sounds a little hoarse today. But when I tell you, this excursion was such a huge, wonderful energy shift for me and for the book. What a gift this trip was, and I want to thank everyone who turned up and brought their excitement and enthusiasm. I want to thank the Philosophical Research Society in LA. We had an incredible turnout there and a crazy long book signing line. Thank you also to the very patient and lovely folks who waited. And I want to thank the Theosophical Society and Quest Books in Seattle. They told me that this event was a record-breaking evening for them in terms of attendance. They were busting out extra chairs and pillows and boxes for people to sit on. And even with that, some folks had to stand. So huge thank you to Seattleites and some Portlanders who took the train up for this. My goodness, I'm so grateful to all of you. And I'm so grateful to the staff at both of these venues for being so welcoming and gracious and keeping everything running smoothly. And there were so many synchronicities that happened on the trip. Perhaps I'll recount them all on a Witch Wave Plus episode. But the electricity and mercurial magic that flowed all week was really quite remarkable, especially given the fact that we're in a Mercury retrograde period right now. But I don't know, maybe Mercury appreciated all the love I've been giving him in the book and on this book tour because everything went so smoothly, like even better than smoothly. I'm talking like I was nervous that flights were going to get delayed or canceled given the news plus the retrograde. But nope, everything went off without a hitch. So I don't know, maybe try giving Mercury some extra love yourself right now, and perhaps he'll grease the wheels a little bit for you too. Now, my book tour continues. I will be in Providence, Rhode Island at Symposium Books on December 11th. And for that event, I'll be in conversation with the magical maker and friend of the pod, Laura Tempest Zakroff. So do join us. And I'm in the process of trying to put together a Boston event, hopefully the day before that. We do have some possible leads already, but hey, if you're listening and you have access to a Boston venue or shop and you'd like me to come by on December 10th, reach out. We might be able to make it happen. And either way, you can find out about the Providence, Rhode Island event and others by going to pamgrossman.com/events and or signing up for my newsletter. So please do so if you haven't already. And I do announce all of this stuff on Instagram, but you know how the algorithm is sometimes. Sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. So my website and newsletter are the most reliable places to find out everything I've got going on. Okay, so let's talk today's episode. We are looking toward Thanksgiving and the winter holidays, and this time of the year is when feasting is at its peak. And I always love to speak with a kitchen witch or food witch during this season to prepare myself for all of these gatherings and also to excite myself about the holidays. Because as many of you know, this time of year can make me a little bit anxious and overwhelmed. And one of the ways I've learned to manage those feelings is to remind myself of my favorite parts of this celebratory season. And what can I say? This witch likes to eat. And one of my favorite foods, one of my truest culinary loves, is cheese. My relationship with cheese is passionate and devotional and deep. But to be honest, it never really occurred to me to call it magical until now. Because today I speak with cheese witch Erika Kubick. You might know Erika for her wildly popular and drool-worthy social media presence, Cheese, Sex, Death, or for her gorgeous book of the same name. But Erika has a brand new book out called Cheese Magic: Seasonal Recipes, Plates, and Pairings, which is part cookbook, part spellbook, and which is centered around all things divinely dairy. And I'm sorry, let's just say this up front. This episode is not vegan. It is not lactose intolerant friendly. You're going to want to take your Lactaid for this one for sure. But even if you don't eat cheese yourself, I think it is well worth your time because it shows how food and magic are deeply interconnected. And I found it so inspiring because it reminded me that cooking and eating and feasting are truly enchanted acts. And our conversation also reminded me of this funny little phrase that I encountered in my research a few months back. Let me set this up for you. So I was reading a book of the Greek magical papyri as translated by Hans Dieter Betz. Now, if you don't know what that is, the Greek magical papyri, or the GMP, as occultists often call them, is this collection of Greco-Roman Egyptian spells and incantations and rituals that were written over a roughly 500-year period. So we're talking between 400 BCE and 100 CE, somewhere in there. So it's some of the oldest recorded magic that we have. Anyhow, the introduction to the book I was reading of the Greek magical papyri talks about how this collection of spells was just sort of sitting around in museum archives, and nothing much was really being done with them for years and years. But then the collection goes up for auction in the 19th century. And the auction catalog lists the Greek magical papyri as fromage mystique. Now, if you know rudimentary French, you'll know that this translates to mystical cheese. Now, I can only assume that the phrase fromage mystique is figurative, that in this context it means like random mystical stuff, and not that the auctioneers thought these magically embellished papyrus sheaths were literal slices of magic cheese. But either way, it's a phrase that delighted the shit out of me, so much so that, of course, I wrote it down, not knowing why or how I would come to ever use it. But I'm so happy that I have an excuse now to tell you about it, because today's episode is full of literal fromage mystique, and I cannot wait for you to hear it. But before we get to that, first, let's check and see what's come through on the Witch Wire.
Who is it?
Witches!
Dorina writes, "Hi, Pam. Let me start off by saying that I love your podcast, and I'm so grateful to have found it. I, like many others, have experienced a lot of burnout lately, caused by both the chaos taking place in our world today, as well as the overall effort needed to participate in everyday life. As a result, I find it difficult to motivate myself to participate in my spiritual practice, even though I know it can help me deal with all that's going on. Do you have any recommendations on navigating spiritual upkeep while burned out? Alternatively, do you have suggestions on how I can use my witchy practice to tend to my burnout? Thank you and blessed be." Hi, Dorina. Thank you so much for your sweet words and your question. And ooh, can I relate to those feelings of burnout? And I imagine many other people listening can too. It's been a rough several years overall, and we're also entering the end of this year when many of us are exhausted, and then the holidays are fraught for some of us and exhausting on top of that for some of us. So I get it. But I think that the key when we're feeling this way is to keep our magic simple and to incorporate it into things that we are already doing anyway. So, for example, you presumably take a shower or bath on most days. Well, that's a perfect opportunity for you to do a quick bit of purification magic or protection magic or replenishment magic for yourself by visualizing negative energy going down the drain as you clean yourself, for example. Maybe you want to intentionally enhance this by buying some magical soap from your favorite witch shop or online witchy soap maker. But even if you're just using regular old Irish springs, you can still make your shower into a spell. Same thing when you're getting dressed in the morning. You can choose certain colors or gemstones or talismans to adorn yourself with to honor certain deities or connect with specific energies. And relevant to today's discussion, eating and feeding ourselves and our loved ones is the perfect opportunity to make more magic. So perhaps as you're stirring your soup on the stove, you're intentionally also infusing it with some extra love or confidence or vitality. Maybe you select certain spices or herbs or salts which have specific magical associations. Maybe you get a little figurine of Hestia or Ceridwen or another deity that you keep in your kitchen to remind you that your cooking is an offering to them and to those you love, and first and foremost to yourself. I love Erika Kubick's book, Cheese Magic, because she includes a glossary of magical terms and a table of magical ingredients that you can reference when you're preparing your magical meals. So focus on what you're already doing every day, and then just figure out how to be more present and intentional with those rituals and infuse the sacred into the mundane. That's honestly what witchcraft is. You don't need to trek deep into the woods or do some elaborate ritual with candles and incense and robes. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love doing that. And when I have the time and bandwidth, I absolutely get lavish with my magic. But on most days, I'm just doing simple things and gilding the ordinary with the extraordinary as I go. I hope that helps, and I'm wishing you lots of rest and replenishment and easeful magic. Now, on to my guest. Erika Kubick is an author, artist, recipe developer, and practitioner. In 2015, she founded the blog Cheese, Sex, Death. And since then, she has amassed an international following and published 2 books, Cheese, Sex, Death in 2021, and her most recent, Cheese Magic, which is out now. Her mission is to inspire others to connect with the natural world through food, ritual, and other earthly pleasures. And I've been a longtime fan of hers myself, so this was a real treat for me. Erika joined me remotely from her home in Chicago, and you can watch the video of our conversation over on my YouTube channel, which is at Phantasmophile. Erika Kubick, welcome to the Witch Wave.
Thank you so much for having me. This is truly a dream come true.
For me as well, although in my dream, we are together in the same place so we could eat a lot of cheese. So we must manifest that version of the dream, but otherwise this is
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thanks for being here.
Of course. Yeah, definitely. I know exactly the cheeses I would bring, so.
Okay, I'm going to have to ask you what those cheeses are. But first, let me just show the folks who are watching on YouTube this beautiful book that we are gathered in celebration of. This is Cheese Magic, Seasonal Recipes, Plates, and Pairings. This is your follow-up book. Your first one was Cheese, Sex, Death. And I have been a fan of yours for a really long time, but now I have the perfect excuse to talk to you because I feel like you stepped out of the broom closet with this one. Is that a correct assessment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, my last book, it was stylized in a Gothic way, like very influenced by Catholic imagery. I don't want to call it faux spirituality because I still felt that cheese was very spiritual, but I was using words like cheese church and cheeses. And it was more fun. You know, it's just like a way to help people relax around this topic of cheese because it can be really daunting. But this is like,
Wait. Can I just jump in and say the idea that you think you're relaxing people by bringing like cheeses and the Bible into the conversation really cracks me up.
but it's silly. Like, it's like
Yes.
so ridiculous.
Yes.
And I know that like there are people who did find it very offensive, which, okay, like that's your religion. You take it very seriously. But I'm also like,
Oh, no.
to be fair, Jesus would think I'm hilarious. Like his adopted dad was a shepherd. Are you kidding? I'm just like, whatever. Like he's not my deity, but he's definitely on Team Erika here. Anyway.
Yes,
But-
I can't argue with that. No lies detected. But with this one, this is fully like a pagan, witchy cheese book. How would you describe it?
Yeah, I call it a culinary grimoire for sure.
Mm.
Yeah, I do absolutely feel like I stepped out of the broom closet. I've been practicing for a really long time, but this really gave me an opportunity to delve deeper into my own practice, but into the ancient practices and even tie that into cheese making in general. I mean, it's very seasonal. Of course, it's modeled after the Wheel of the Year, which also really works with the way that cheese is made, at least in the most romantic sense of it, the most, I don't want to say like organic as in like certified organic, but as in working with the earth,
Yes.
working with natural cycles.
Yes. And so with this book, you know, you called it a culinary grimoire. And I want people to understand that, as you said, it is organized around the Wheel of the Year. You are celebrating different recipes, usually with a cheese focus, that one can create, bake, cook for different pagan holy days or seasonal moments of the year. You also have these beautiful cheese plates, and you call them cheese altars, that you put together. And there's like luscious photographs, and it's all incredibly intentional. A lot of the ingredients you use are not only seasonally appropriate, but they're magically appropriate. You include a table of magical correspondences in the back so people can construct their own cheesy culinary spells. I mean, I think culinary grimoire is the perfect way to describe this. So how did you come up with this idea?
Thank you so much. I just like everything you said, absolutely what I was going for. So I actually came up with the idea of this book. I hadn't even published my first book yet. I was already burnt out from the last book, but the wheels were turning in my head about what I wanted to do next already. I have a Capricorn stellium, so I'm like, I think it has something to do with it. I was with my partner. We were in one of my favorite places in the world, Store County, Wisconsin, at this like gorgeous nature preserve up there. And we were just walking in the woods, and it really felt like the idea just like channeled down to me in this like paradise. And just like so many trees around me, like lake water splashing on rocks, just like my favorite place to channel any portal. And I remember just like turning to my partner and being like, okay, I did this book. It's a reference about cheese. There's so much information in there, but I want to do a spell book about cheese next. It just seems so much more me, so much more personal, so much more creatively just fulfilling. And yeah, just from there, I spent a couple years while I was promoting my last book, working on this, and it came together so organically.
And it is so beautiful. I also love the illustrator that you worked with. Yeah. Can you remind me of their name? I have it written down.
Yeah, Devin First. He actually just did a Seasons of the Witch calendar, a wall calendar. And I'm very lucky he sent me one. And it is so cool. I'm just
He's
like,
so
oh,
incredible. I've been following
yes.
him on Instagram for a long time. I've been a fan of his. So it's such a beautiful pairing as well.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the connection between witchcraft and cheese. I love your intro to this book so much. Like, I'm tempted to read the whole thing to people, but I won't do that. Here are a couple quotes. You say, Cheese making is not unlike spell casting. It involves practice, faith, and a little bit of magic. And earlier in the intro, I think the first words of the book are cheese is magic. Obviously, as someone who loves magic and loves cheese, my ears perked up, my tummy perked up. But what do you mean by that exactly? Why is cheese magic to you?
Well, I mean, there's so many ways you could answer that question. But for me, it is such a perfect manifestation of so many different things. So you have like the power of the sun, the power of the moon shining down on these pastures, and then these beautiful animals who are on these pastures who are eating those grasses, those herbs, whatever. And that nutrition and that power is going into their bodies and then going into the milk. And then there's these people who have this sacred knowledge that has been passed down since, I mean, the dawn of agriculture. Cheese making has been, I guess not that early, but it's pretty close. They started making cheese pretty soon around then. And just the fact that all that history and all of that culture, no pun intended, but also kind of intended, comes together with just fauna, floral, humans. It's just incredible to me. And then it like ages and all of those like invisible bacteria and microbes have to come together in this very particular way to make a very particular cheese. And the amount of work that goes into just taking care of the cheese as it's aging is absolutely insane to me. Even just like the dank caves that the cheeses are in, like, that's so goth.
Yes.
Like if you think of Roquefort, like Roquefort is actually in these like beautiful old caves. It's just, yeah, it's magic. I mean, come on.
Super thonic energy, very underworldy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
I love that. And in the dark and the shadow. And
And it's like this rebirth in the dark. It's this milk that then has life added to it through these microbes, through these cultures that are, usually like today are grown in a lab and added to the milk. But sometimes they're just coming from the aging environment or from the cows themselves, or even like the hands of the people who are milking the cows. It's just like the science is incredible, but like I don't have that much of a scientific brain. So I think that's more the spirituality of it. Yeah, the magic of it that just really enchants me.
Speaking of enchant, there is this quote that people send to me all the time on Instagram. I know you know that quote, and you use it in this intro. This comes from The Complete Book of Magic and Witchcraft by Catherine Paulson. It's a book that came out in 1970, though perhaps she's quoting something even older. And the phrase is, "You may fascinate a woman by giving her a piece of cheese." And I love this idea of cheese also as this enchanting, I don't know, talisman or attractive. It's almost like a bit of love magic, right? You're going to take this object of your desire and attract them with this cheese. How do you interpret that?
Yeah, I mean, I love that you're even calling it love magic because cheese is a product of sex, right? Like the animal has to be pregnant and give birth in order to lactate. So there's already this very sexual energy in there. And then cheese itself, it's a very sensual and sexy food. There was this cult of Christianity, like way back in, still during Roman times, that tried to use cheese as part of the Eucharist. But the Roman church was like, absolutely not. That's way too sensuous. Like, we can't be doing that. We got to use basic bread, which I'm like, okay, that sounds like a very fun church.
Oh, no.
I know, right? I'm like, come on, guys, have a little bit of fun. So yeah, what's another thing that's really interesting about cheese is that it was used a lot in divination rituals, especially during the Victorian era. And there's actually a woman that lives in Chicago, very lucky, lives in Chicago, where I live as well, who still does chiromancy readings. So you like will bite into a piece of cheese and she'll look at it and be like, okay, I'm seeing like a heart. Maybe there's a new love interest coming into your life. It's just a classic divination tools, like you would do tea leaves or tarot cards, whatever. But it's incredible that cheese has such a long history of divination. And there's so much crossover with cheese and witchcraft, even just the classic idea of what like a witch looks like. A lot of that has to do with the women who were brewing beer or were making cheese. Like they're standing over these copper cauldrons, they're stirring, they have cats to keep the rats out of the feed for the animals. It's such a long history.
Oh, I love it so much. And you also bring up that the Sumerian goddess Inanna, whom I adore, one of her prime offerings that she required from worshipers was milk and cheese and other dairy products, right?
Of course. I mean, milk itself, it's such a like Venusian food. It's a very like lunar food too. It just has such a femme energy to it. I mean, for obvious reasons. It's like I said before, like it's coming from a female animal. It's coming from like a tit,
Mm-hmm.
like Inanna, Aphrodite, Venus, all of the love goddesses than that.
Ah, okay. I love this so much. I want to get into the Wheel of the Year. You begin the book with Yule, and you and I are recording this conversation in early November. So Samhain has just passed. We're getting ready in the Gregorian calendar for Thanksgiving, which is why I wanted you on here now, because we're pivoting towards the holiday season when there's a lot of feasting. And I believe, as it seems that you do too, that we should be feasting all year round. Nonetheless, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, Yule, etc., is just around the corner. And so I'd love to hear what made you decide to start your cheese wheel of the year with Yule.
Yeah. So I picked up a ton of books about the Wheel of the Year, which was so much fun to delve into. But a lot of them did start with Samhain, which I think definitely makes sense. But for me, that is the final harvest. So it would make so much more sense for me, at least as far as a food journey goes, to end it at Samhain, because when you're beginning at Yule, then you're starting with the birth of the sun. And this book is a lot about the sun's journey and how that the sun does affect our food system, and specifically cheese and how cheese is made and the way you're eating. So I felt like I had to start with the birth, right? And then it ends with the death.
I love it. It's perfect. It's a perfect decision, I think. And tell me how you came up with each of your recipes that you wanted to include, and with the different cheese altar plates and so on as well. Because, I mean, food is pretty infinite. And you have these really refined, specific recipes, which I love, and I want to try them all. But how did you whittle that down?
So I love a methodical approach. I decided mostly on like the recipes that I was most excited about, and I kind of fit them into the Wheel of the Year. And then I was like, okay, how many entries am I going to have for each Sabbath? So obviously it had to be 13, of course. I had to go with the goddess number. So I decided like 3 cheese plates is perfect. 2 beverage pairings, great. We can have 3 accompaniments that would go on the cheese plates as well. And then 5 main recipes: appetizer, salad, breakfast, entree, and dessert, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just like loved filling in each of the blank spaces. Like it was a Mad Lib. It just was so, there's something so soothing about that. I loved the beginning phase of it. And then it really was about the cheese. Like, what were the cheeses that I really wanted to highlight? I feel really lucky. I've been working in the cheese industry for, I want to say like 13, 14 years now. So I have a good knowledge about the types of cheeses out there and their seasonality and when they're best. And not only like when they're best as far as availability goes, but when it's really hot out, I'm less likely to want an oozy brie. I mean, I still want it, but I really want like a marinated feta. I want like a chunk of Parmigiano that I can just take chunks or shards off of it. And then in the fall or in the winter, like, yeah, I still want that feta. I still want that mozzarella, but I want to dive into something really rich, really comforting. So I'd say that the blueprint was really great to work off of, but the cheese really informed what the recipes were going to actually be.
Yes. And tell me about also how you constructed some of the magic in the recipes and in the cheese plate altars, because you are very specific about certain ingredients that might, say, bring in abundance, or around Imbolc, where there's Valentine's Day and some of those holidays, there's a lot of love magic, or maybe that's sprinkled throughout Beltane as well. Forgive me if I'm losing my place a little bit, but you know, you have all kinds of different spell work that's woven in the recipes. So how did you come up with where those spells were going to sit and what those ingredients were too?
So similarly, I went through all the Wheel of the Year books that I had and just the other books that I researched with. and saw like what were the ancient practices that were happening around the year and kind of like fit those into the recipes I already wanted to make. And then once again, the seasonal foods. We're using a lot of cellared foods around Imbolc because if you want to honor what our ancestors were doing, they were in such a survival mode around Imbolc. So I used a lot of cellared vegetables. I have these amazing pickled beets that are just delicious. And I have this like salad that's partly for quickening. It has like a seeded gravel in it and it has those beets in there and it's delicious. And of course, blue cheese, because beets and blue cheese, jeez.
Yum, yum, yum.
Give me a break, right? And then like in the summertime where you have such an abundance, like of course that's a time for an abundance ritual, a money spell ritual, but also there's a lot of protection rituals that are happening early summer during Litha because our ancestors were trying to protect their crops, protect their livestock. So it's a perfect time. I mean, protection magic, let's be honest, all year round, every day.
Yes.
But it really fit in to have the like fresh blueberries there, making like a blackberry compote there as well. You have those ingredients available to you seasonally. And yeah, it's just, like I said, it was very organic the way things fell into place. It did feel very channeled.
Yeah, it feels very intuitive too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. On that note, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. This episode of The Witch Wave is brought to you by Spells for Success. Do you need magical inspiration? Are you looking to further develop your spells and make magical tools for your loved ones? Spells for Success Oracle and Instructional Deck by Lauren Parker helps you harness the power of your craft and manifest success in every aspect of your life. With 40 simple, easy-to-follow spells, this deck is suitable for beginners, skeptics, and experienced practitioners alike, and brings ritual into the mundane and everyday. With the philosophy that craft is the path and witch is the job, this deck features spells for job interviews, healing from breakups, ending workplace harassment, banishing loneliness, and spells for hope, allowing you to not just do magic for your own well-being, but for others. With 10 introductory cards that provide you with instructions for setting intentions, making your altar, and some common ingredients you may have in your home, Spells for Success deck is the perfect gift for any budding or established witch. You can pick up a copy of Spells for Success by Lauren Parker wherever books are sold. The Witch Wave is brought to you by BetterHelp. Look, the shorter days can be really hard on my psyche. I'm not gonna lie. I can sometimes feel blue and tired and just a little bit isolated. But this is actually the perfect time to reach out and check in on other people that you care about and to remind ourselves that we're not alone. As the seasons change and the days grow darker sooner, it can be a tough time for lots of people, not just you, not just me. And this November, BetterHelp is encouraging everyone to reach out, to check in on friends, to reconnect with loved ones, and to remind the people in your life that you're there and they're not alone. And look, every time I push myself and do it, I reach out and ask someone for tea or send that text to let someone know I'm thinking about them or show up to the party even though I really would rather stay at home. I always think to myself, why didn't I do this sooner? Why did I hesitate? It's almost always worthwhile because connection makes life easier for everybody. And that question, why didn't I do this sooner, is the same question that people often ask themselves when it comes to therapy. Yes, it takes a little bit of effort, a little bit of getting out of your comfort zone, a little bit of courage to reach out and connect. But I promise, if you do so, you will not regret it. And BetterHelp makes it easier than ever to do so. BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct. They are fully licensed in the US, and with over 30,000 therapists, it is one of the world's largest online therapy platforms. And what that means is, if the therapist that you are connected with at first doesn't feel like the right fit, you can change therapists at any time, and there's sure to be somebody who's the right fit for you because they have such a wide net of therapeutic professionals. So this month, don't wait to reach out. Whether you're checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself, BetterHelp makes it easier to take that first step. And our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/witchwave. That's betterhelp.com/witchwave. Don't hesitate. Welcome back to the Witch Wave. Okay, so I need to know everything about you. How does one become a cheese expert? How did this happen to you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm a very creative person. So when I was in college, I chose to study film and literature, which really meant like, what are you doing with that job after you graduate, right? So I ended up working in the food industry, as many of us do, but I also fell into a great internship with Plate Magazine that's unfortunately has since shut down. But I was editing there with my fancy film degree. I was editing their chef's industry, like interviews. So like that's how I got the internship, but they gave me this story about Spanish cheeses for their Spanish issues, and calling it a story is such an oversell because it was a chart that they asked me to fill out.
Okay.
And they were just like, Google Spanish cheeses, find some Spanish cheeses and put them in this chart. So I did that, but I fell down the rabbit hole. I was like, how are there so many cheeses just in Spain? And they're so important culturally and to the, economics of these small villages, of these small towns. And I felt like in that moment, the like sky opened up. Like I felt so lost at that time. I didn't know what I was doing with my life. So many of like undergrads don't know.
Yeah.
And it just felt like the sky opened up and it was like, this is what you're doing, at least for right now. You're dedicating your life to cheese. And I always call it my come to Jesus moment.
Perfect.
So I became a cheesemonger from there. And I loved being a cheesemonger so much as I loved teaching people about these different cheeses and seeing their eyes just open up when they come to the cheese counter, but they also seem so overwhelmed.
Yes.
There's so many different kinds. They have like names that are foreign. I don't know how to pronounce that. So, and they like, everything smells weird. You don't know what you like until you've tried it. And the cheesemonger is so important for that. So I started a blog a couple years after I started cheesemongering, and it just kind of developed into my brand, which is Cheese Sex Death. And I've been teaching people about cheese online for a really long time. I taught tons of classes around the country. I even did one in the UK. Yeah, it's kind of the rest is history.
Oh, it's so incredible. And you do it with such joy and a lot of style, a lot of what I call reverent irreverence, which I find absolutely delicious and irresistible. But you said earlier you are also a practicing witch. So when did that start for you? And when did you start trying to weave this together?
The witchcraft, like I was so fascinated by it when I was younger. And it was really just like hocus pocus and like watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch like every week. Just like I would stay home on Friday nights because like that's when Sabrina was on. And I feel like I didn't have a huge exposure to it through anyone I knew. I never had met people that were practicing. I didn't know any Wiccans or anything like that. And I grew up in a Lutheran household. I mean, my parents are, I wouldn't say they're very strict with they're okay with me not being Christian anymore. I don't know if my grandmother would be okay with it if she was still with us. But I wouldn't say I had like a role model in the space. But in my early 20s, I went to New Orleans, as many of us do make the pilgrimage. And that's when I really started learning more about it. I remember going to the Voodoo Museum and the Apothecary Museum and just learning all about the culture and the history behind it. And I went to like that one store that I feel like it's like in Salem too. I think it's called Hex, and got like a crystal reading there, and just it blew my mind. And from there, I just started studying it similarly to the way that I was studying cheese. And it just feels really cool that knowledge I can interweave it in this book.
Yes. And Was there a moment that you remember thinking like, "Oh, this thing I love, cheese, and this spiritual practice I have, witchcraft, they have this nice like dovetailing." Do you remember when that occurred to you?
Yeah. I was reading probably one of my favorite cheese books. It's the Oxford Companion to Cheese. Incredible. And they had a whole section called Magical Thinking. And it was all about how cheesemakers historically couldn't go into the make room if they were in a bad mood or if something had like bad had happened to them because they couldn't bring that energy into the cheese making because it would result in a bad cheese. It also talked about how the dairy maids could be accused of witchcraft if their cheese was like too good or if their cow was too prolific or if their neighbor's cow just stopped giving milk and dried up, then they'd be like, well, clearly you cursed this person. You must be a
Right.
witch. And that was fascinating to me, especially like I remember reading that when I was still like pretty early in my cheese career. And I was like, whoa, like I can be a witch and a cheese person. Like this is so cool. And then I also found out that there were so many of my colleagues in cheese that were also witches. There's a lot of really cool women in my industry. And like, of course, they're also witches, you know?
I love knowing that, and I had no idea, but of course it makes perfect sense, and honestly, like, we're everywhere. But even
Everywhere.
so, the fact that this vocation, it's about crafting something, it is so I feel like the puns are just gonna keep falling out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Funky in terms of yes, you can plan it, but it also sounds like nature and maybe spirit is doing a lot of the work of making the cheese become itself as well. So I love that it attracts witchy people. That's so interesting to me.
Of course. And of course, I mean, there's kitchen witches too, right? Which I think, I don't know, it's one of my favorite type of witch. It feels so ingrained into just like your daily routine. I think a lot of us struggle with fitting the magic into the schedule, right? And it feels like, especially when you're starting out in witchcraft, it feels like you need to have such a regimented routine. And for some people, that does really work. But for me, just weaving it into everything that I'm doing, just like, you know, making my coffee in the morning and speaking my intention into it, or just like, you know, I stir it clockwise, counterclockwise, and then I stir it clockwise. It's just the way you live, you know?
Yes, 100%. I love that too. I want to talk to you about this moment that we're in seasonally. You know, someone may listen to this episode at any time of the year, but if folks are listening to it when it's released, as I said earlier, we're looking towards Thanksgiving and the other holidays. So, what are some cheeses and perhaps other ingredients or recipes that you would love to highlight for us that you think will bring some extra magic for us this season?
Okay, so the first one that I have to highlight, and I have a cheese plate that features it, it's called Rush Creek Reserve. It comes from Uplands Cheese in Dodgeville, Wisconsin. Very scenic, just like rolling green pastures, right? Beautiful cows that are just like living the life out there. They only make two different cheeses. So in the summertime, they make another one of my favorite cheeses. It's been featured on the cover of both of my books. It's called Pleasant Ridge Reserve. That's only made when the pasture is like full bloom during the summertime when the cows are eating the fresh grass. And then when the cows start to eat dried hay, it makes their milk so much richer that it doesn't work as well for that cheese, which is a little bit more like the Gruyere side. So instead, they make this cheese called Rush Creek Reserve. It kind of looks like a brie, but it's a washed rind, which means it gets like a brine on it to have like a stinkier rind on it.
Hmm.
And wrapped in spruce bark. It infuses with this flavor of the woods. It is unbelievable. And because it's washed rind, so it's a little bit savory, it has like this like bacony flavor to it. It is
Ooh,
insane. You can just peel off the top rind and just dip stuff into it. I love dipping French fries into it.
yum.
That's like a little bit more on the naughty side. But so one of the cheese plates that's featured in the Yule section is called the cheese wreath plate. And it features the Rush Creek Reserve in the center. And then it has a wreath of the Pleasant Ridge Reserve around it. And it just feels like a perfect encapsulation of the turning of the sun. You know, you have like the summertime, which is coming around the corner and the sun is being reborn in this moment, like during the Yule time. And then you have this beautiful, like harvested cheese that's coming out of the fall. It feels like it just brings the whole year together. And there's some beautiful pomegranate seeds on it. It's like decoration. There's a bunch of herbs. So like, especially some rosemary, which is like the smell of the rosemary with this like spruce wrapped cheese. It's just insane. There's a little like charcuterie just like a little salami bow at the bottom. It's so cute. I love that one. So that's definitely one I would want to feature. The holidays are so fun in the cheese world because there's so many things that like come to market that aren't available year round.
Mm.
Another one is Brabander Reserve. It's a goat's milk Gouda. It comes from Holland, of course. Many Goudas do, but it's aged extra long. It's so beautiful because I think you see a lot of Goudas that have that really like warm orange tone. And this one has like a bright white interior with all these like crunchy crystals. And it tastes
Mm.
like brown butter and pineapple. It is insanely delicious. And I used it on this white chocolate bark. It's based on one of my kitchen deities, Ina Garten, her like white chocolate bark recipe. And then there's a cheese shop here in Chicago called All Together Now. And they served this at an event that I did with them where they grated goat cheese all over a white chocolate bark. And I was like, that's genius. That's so cool. So I made it's called the Bejeweled Bark. So it's white chocolate and it has like dried cherries and pistachios. So it has that very Yuletide color palette. And then it's just covered with like a snowy shower of this grated goat cheese. It's insanely delicious, but also so beautiful.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, the aesthetics are super important to you. This book is filled with pictures and enhanced with some illustrative flourishes. And I would love to get a sense also of, are you thinking of colors? Are you thinking of shapes? Like, what makes a good cheese plate, or as you call them, cheese altar?
Oh, definitely color. Like, especially with this book, I looked at like the different colors that were associated with the different festivals. And I'm a very seasonal person anyways. Like, what are the colors I'm wearing or just like leaning towards during these different seasons? So color is really important, but you also want to do texture and a difference of shapes. I think cheese plates on Instagram can be a little bit overly abundant. And like, I'm guilty of doing those too. They're so pretty and they're so fun to put together to have it very overflowing. But there's a couple of the cheese plates during like the Samhain time that are a little bit more barren because it reminds me of the way the trees look and just the general theme of death and decay and the quiet solitude that comes along that time of year. With any cheese plate, you want to pay attention to the colors, but also think about what you want to evoke with it. Is it more abundant? Like if you're doing an abundance spell and you are have like this beautiful party, you want it to be more abundant. But maybe if you're just trying to ground in the moment and take care of yourself and just find a moment of peace, it can be a little bit more sparse. It's okay to just have like one piece of cheese and a couple crackers, or even not even crackers. Maybe you're just eating the cheese by itself with a couple slices of fruit.
Mm.
You can be that simple. I think that people can feel really intimidated by putting together a cheese plate, especially after they see such abundant, beautiful creations on Instagram. But sometimes when it's more simple, it's even more beautiful. Like let the cheese speak for itself, you know?
I love that. So I am thinking about Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I know we talked about some Yule-oriented things, but before we get to Yule, we're still looking towards Thanksgiving. And when I think of Thanksgiving, I think obviously of like pumpkins and apples and maybe even pomegranates, squash, that kind of food. What are some cheeses that you might recommend people bring for some Thanksgiving magic and maybe even some peace between relatives and others as well? Do you think cheese can make us feel less dramatic?
I mean, I hope so. I would say bandaged cheddar. So it's much more rustic looking than your classic like block cheddar. It's wrapped in muslin cloth when it's aged. It lets the cheese breathe in its environment and it creates this like cavey aroma. Also so good with Thanksgiving flavors. I would definitely pair it with an onion jam. Onions, so protective, so grounding. As a jam, it has that sweetness, which I think can just sweeten the mood a little bit. Also, not everyone's had onion jam. So a good conversation starter that might be onions, I think aren't, it's a kind of a safe subject, right? Onion jam, a couple fresh apples, and a bandaged cheddar. delicious pairing. Also, like throw some pomegranates on there as well.
Mm.
Ooh, bruleed feta. That's one of my favorite things that is very holiday appropriate, very festive. Feta also a little bit lighter. We're eating lots. Very indulgent holiday Thanksgiving, but I like to mix it up with a little bit of honey just to like smooth it out and also sweeten it a little bit because feta is very salty. And then I put it in like a heat-proof crock. This recipe is technically in the in-bulk section, but like it's great for Thanksgiving too. You cover it with a little bit of sugar and use a brulee torch and brulee the top like you would a creme brulee. Incredible. That with pomegranate seeds, gorgeous, so delicious. And then just dips in like whole wheat crackers and they're like a seeded bread, like a seeded baguette. And like that with the cranberry relish too. Oh. Like bring the cranberry relish to the cheese plate. It doesn't have to just be on the dinner table, you know?
That's such a good idea. And I have literally never thought to do that. And it's perfect. Of course. I'm literally going to try that this year.
Love that.
And I don't own a brulee torch. And I'm a witch. I need a fire wand, don't I?
Yeah, we all need a brulee torch. They're not that expensive. And like I use mine all the time. It's crazy how many cheeses you can brulee. And it's just so cool. Like brulee it in front of your guests. Their minds are going to be blown. They'll want their own brulee torch. Then you get brulee torches for everybody for the holiday gift-giving season.
This is perfect. And so maybe a good gift-giving guide is obviously a copy of your book, Cheese Magic, a little brulee torch, and then some beautiful cheese for them to brulee. Maybe even like, I don't know, a little cauldron or bit of crockery that they can... I mean, right?
So cute. Yeah.
Come on. That's what I want. All right. I'm registering for this right now.
Absolutely.
On that note, we're going to take another quick break and we'll be right back.
This episode of The Witch Wave is brought to you by Moon Studio and their Many Moons Lunar Planner. Every year, I get excited about the new Many Moons Lunar Planner, and the 2026 edition is available for order now. Do you want to reconnect with your own magic with plenty of support from experts? Are you ready to realign with the rhythms of nature and tap into your own true nature? If you need centering, grounding, and rituals that are designed to work, Many Moons is here for you. The Many Moons Lunar Planner is a comprehensive spiritual guide that combines a fully functional Gregorian calendar with the cycles of the moon. It also includes all major astrological transits, channeled themes for each month, and abundant tarot spreads. This is truly one of the most comprehensive magical planners around, and as soon as you receive this wonderful treasure, you will understand why it is a cult classic with over 100,000 copies sold. Order yours now at moon-studio.co. That's moon-studio.co. This episode of The Witch Wave is brought to you by Mithras Candle, as it so often is. Fall is here, and with the cool autumn air and darkening evenings comes a radiant tool for creating the perfect sacred setting or cozy moment. Of course, I'm talking about Mithras candles, my favorite. For 10 years, my mythic and scientific pals in Philadelphia have been hand-making gorgeous beeswax lights inspired by their experiences in science, magic, and mysticism. Mithras candles come in natural golden yellow and sensual black, with other colors and collaborations popping up throughout the wheel of the year. I'm obsessed with these candles. If you've listened to The Witch Wave for any amount of time, you will know that. And I know that you will be hooked as well once you experience the Byzantine hand-dripped style of a Mithras candle and their honey floral aroma. These candles are made with soul to carry your intentions to where they are needed. Go to mithriscandle.com to pick up the perfect glowing addition to your magical moments. And best of all, Witchwave listeners get 25% off their first order by using offer code WitchWave at checkout. That's offer code WitchWave over at Mithras Candle. M as in magic, ITHRAS candle.com. You know, you want some Witch Wave merch. And our print-on-demand merch site is now available through Dashery. So if you want to get different variations of our gorgeous Witch Wave logo designed by Thunderwing, or our Witches Are the Future catchphrase designed by Lara Antal, printed on everything from t-shirts, mugs, totes, stickers, magnets, notebooks, you name it, you can. Shirts come in different styles and fabrics and are available in sizes small through 5XL, so you can order whatever you'll feel you're most comfortable and most magical in. So head on over to witchwave.dashery.com. That's witchwave.dashery.com, or you can click the Dashery link in the Witchwave shop over at witchwavepodcast.com/shop. Welcome back to the Witchwave. I want to ask you a question that I'm sure everybody asks you, and I hesitate because I don't like asking tiresome questions, but I'm going to do it anyway because I am curious. Look, I'm a middle-aged lady. I'm watching my cholesterol. I'm thinking about health and wellness, and I think that, of course, cheese is like really nourishing. Obviously, it's a very fatty food. So how do you think about or talk about cheese and the body, cheese and wellness, things like that?
Yeah. I mean, high cholesterol runs in my family. So my cardiologist
Same.
loves the question. Yeah. I mean, I think some people think of like making the cheese plate and then just, okay, so I'm guilty of this too. I love to make dinner and then like sit in front of the TV and like watch an episode of Gilmore Girls and eat my cheese. I think that's like really separating you from the experience and the ritual of actually eating it. I think, like I said, I'm not passing any judgment. Trust me, I do this all the time. But there are also moments where I'm like, okay, I need fiber in my life right now. I need to celebrate these vegetables that I love so much and are so seasonal, obviously. Like kale right now, for example, makes a great salad, goes so well with the squash and the apples that are in season right now. And sometimes it kind of sucks to eat it. But other times when you pair it with the cheese, it actually is great. Like having bite after bite of just richness, it's really tiresome, not just like for your body, for your cholesterol, but also for your taste buds. Like you need bright acidity, you need sweetness and bitterness. You need all of that to come together to create like a flavor story. So yeah, I use cheeses to accentuate vegetables, right? Like it makes it so much more delicious, but the vegetables just don't need the cheese. The cheese also needs the vegetables. Cheese actually can be a perfect food nutritionally, but it doesn't have any vitamin C or fiber. So your job is to include that in there. And the vegetables should be the majority of the meal.
Yes. And we should say a lot of your recipes do have lots of vegetables, lots of fruit, protein. In addition to the cheese, it's not only a cheese book.
Right.
I mean, certainly it is cheese-centric for sure, but there really is a variety of food in here, which I really, really appreciate. You had mentioned earlier your relationship to the deity Jesus, and I wondered, are there other deities that make you feel particularly connected to cheese, or deities that you think love cheese? We mentioned Inanna loves cheese as an offering. Who are some other goddesses or deities that you feel connected to in terms of this conversation?
This is a great question. I would say that cheese really has a crone aspect to it. You know, cheese is controlled decay. I have a section in the book.
I love this so much. I'm so sorry. I have to interject and I need to pause you. So you're saying it has crone energy
Yeah.
and that cheese is controlled rot. I love this so
Yeah.
much. Okay, continue.
It's also known as a putrefative fermentation. So the art of like any fermentation, right? Like it's controlled. You are trying to develop a flavor. The human is so important to work with the microbes. Like it's not happening by itself. You have a lot of different, humidity, temperature, whatever you're doing to control, or even just like adding the microbes in there. But cheese it's a decaying food. Like it's alive with all these bacteria, these microbes, but it's decaying as well. So I do think that there is such, oh my gosh, but like now I'm thinking it's definitely triple goddess energy because it's also like you have the fresh milk, you have the maiden aspect, you have the coagulated milk that has the introduction of the microbes, which make it more of like a mother aspect. And even saying that, what's crazy is that this book, Hecate, is the last in my acknowledgments. It says like, thank you, Hecate, because I worked with her a lot while making this book.
Perfect.
Yeah. Wow. What a great question. Never thought of it before, but yeah. Triple goddess.
I'm so glad. Well, that's a perfect answer. And obviously, milk just being mother energy in general, too.
Right.
It also, just as we're talking here, I'm thinking about the different animals that milk comes from. Certainly, there's cow's milk, but there's also sheep and goat. And I think you write about buffalo. Is that right?
Definitely.
And all of those different animals have certain deities and myths that are associated with them too. So I don't know. I'm just thinking of like Hathor, the, cow-headed goddess in Egyptian mythology and things like that.
Totally.
It'd be fun to make a little cheese map of the goddesses.
Oh, yeah.
You do this wonderful cheese wheel about the zodiac. And I don't know, I got a real kick out of it. I'm an Aquarius sun. And you say that the Aquarius cheese is wrinkled, soft, ripened cheese. And I was like, guilty. That's me right there. Now, I think you were talking about it looks like a brain, right? And Aquarius, we're supposed to be, quite intellectual and a little odd. How did you come up with the other zodiacal cheeses?
Oh, I love astrology so much. And like that was so much fun to put together. I've also on my Instagram for a while, I think over a year now, I've been doing a cheese and like astrology plate series. So every astrological sign has a cheese plate. So that was kind of like me workshopping this plate. But yeah, so 4 of the signs have cheeses and then the rest of them have accompaniments. So it's like a full cheese plate. I used Chani Nicholas's book a lot to come up with, I think she does such a good job of like distilling the signs. So I used that to inspire like obviously like Pisces is going to be fish, right?
Yes.
Cancer, I always love think about it as burrata because it has like that shell, but it's so soft on the inside and it's just like bobbing in like a briny fluid. It felt very intuitive putting that together. Like Taurus, I made this incredible butter cracker, like cream cracker recipe in the book. And it was just like, you're putting work into creating this cracker and it's a very indulgent cracker. And it also has like salt and pepper and like sesame seeds on the outside. And like you cannot stop eating these crackers. It feels so like comfy Taurus energy.
Yes.
Yeah. That one really came together for me very quickly. It felt very intuitive.
It's so, so delightful. So we started this conversation with you saying you knew exactly what cheeses you would bring if we were together.
Yeah,
and
totally.
we just have a few minutes left, but I would love to know what are some of those cheeses and why?
Okay, so the first one is called witchgrass. I cannot remember the creamery right now, but it is such a beautiful cheese. It has a little bit of vegetable ash on the outside. And vegetable ash is very commonly used in cheese making to protect the rind and to help it develop. So that was the first one. It's just like so fresh. It feels like biting into snow. And of course, it's called witchgrass. So like, come on. The second one is my favorite cheese, the mother of all blues. Well, one of my favorites. I have like 5 favorites, but Roquefort, a classic, like great, perfect Roquefort. So sexy and so like fancy, but also it has such an old energy because it's known as the original blue. And the mold that they use in most blue cheeses is called Penicillium roqueforti. It actually gets its name from Roquefort. There's a lot of legends and fables behind it, but it's just, I don't know, she just like has such a like iconic energy to me. So that would be a perfect one. And then the other one would definitely be a Pleasant Ridge Reserve. It's just like such a perfect cheese to me, if that makes sense.
Mm.
When I think of just like bring to mind just like a classic cheese, like that's the one that comes up. But also it's so bright yellow because of the beta carotene that's in the grass that the cows are eating. It's just so beautiful and it's so nuanced and the flavor is different every time I eat it because it's such an artisan product. Yeah, that would be the 3 cheeses that we would eat.
Okay, can we please make this happen?
Yes.
For real. Like, I was going to say this earlier. I'll say it now. I literally can't watch the British baking show because I get too hungry and it's like frustrating for me. And talking to you is like mostly delightful, but it's a little torturous because my mouth is watering. Like, I want to eat all these cheeses. We have to get together and do this someday. I don't know how we're going to manifest it. Either I'm going to come to Chicago, you're going to come to New York. We'll meet somewhere in the middle, but we need to have like a cheese witch extravaganza.
Absolutely. I'm so sorry to torture you during this. I do have that effect though. So yeah, it'll happen.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we just have a couple more moments. Erika, is there anything you want to make sure that people know about? This could be sacred, mundane, anything in between, any messages you want to leave us with, or any other things you want to make sure that people know you've got going on?
I think first I want to say is that cheese is for everyone, especially right now with like food insecurity. I know cheese is an expensive product and there's also like a lot of white people working in that field, but there's also a lot of people that look very different from me. I know I'm just a white blonde girl, so whatever. So that being said, there's a lot of incredible people in this field and it is inclusive. Like everyone belongs here. So I just don't want people to think that like cheese is not for everyone just because you see a lot of like rich people eating it. The history of cheese, it's a peasant food. Like it's not supposed to be just for the elite. It's supposed to be for everyone. So that's the first thing I want to say. Second of all, I do have a Substack. You can follow me there. It's very easy to follow me on Instagram. I feel like that's probably the best place because it's a very visual medium. And I love making videos about cheese. Obviously, like, you know, this book, I did shoot this book on an iPhone. So there's a lot of...
Are you serious?
I did, yeah. I feel like I should have given myself a photo credit. Or like at least Apple should give me a billboard.
Wow, for real. I assumed that this was like some super high-end camera. You did all the photography yourself too then?
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you. It means a lot. Yeah.
Ah, color me impressed. How fabulous. So you have your Substack, your Instagram, anything else that we should know?
I mean, that's it, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
If people come to Chicago, are you somebody that they could work with to, I don't know, come up with cheese for fabulous events? Or maybe they don't have to come to Chicago. Do you do cheese witch consultancies?
I am always a DM away. I do have events coming up. I will be making events based on the Wheel of the Year. If you are in Chicago, I have one coming up for Yule time. It's cheese market with my favorite cheese shop like in the world, Beautiful Rind. They're in Logan Square. So for every Sabbath, I will have an event. They're mostly going to be in Chicago. But yeah, look me up. We would love to eat cheese with you.
I need to get myself to Chicago. That's what's going to have to happen. That's what's going to have to happen. Well, listen, Erika, I've admired you for so long, and that is now, I'll say, triply so, triple creamly so. That didn't work at all. But I just absolutely adore what you are all about, and you're just like the perfect Venn diagram of a human of two of my favorite things. So what a delight this has been. Thank you so much for being on the Witch Wave.
Oh my God. Like I said, dream come true. I'm a long-time listener, so thank you so much for having me.
That's it for the show. Thank you again to Erika Kubick for sharing her fromage mystique with me. Do you have questions, feedback, need some witchly advice, or just want to share something magical that happened to you recently? Drop us an email or a voice memo over at witchwavepodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, and you just might make it on the Witch Wire. Please check out the video of my conversation with today's guest and prior guests over at my YouTube channel @Phantasmophile, and please like and subscribe. The Witch Wave is a Phantasmophile production, written and produced by me, Pam Grossman. We are 100% independently run and proud of it. This episode was recorded and edited by Josh Wilcox and/or Walter Nordquist and myself. Our theme music is the song Hand and I by Lycanthia. Our new Witchwave logo was designed by Thunderwing. Special thanks go to Matt Freeman, Laura Antal, and Cece Pascal. Please pick up my books Magic Maker and Waking the Witch, or the Witchcraft volume I co-edited for Taschen's Library of Esoterica series. And if you want more Witchwave, or you would just like to support the show, please join us over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/witchwave. Thank you so much for listening. Witches are the future. I'll catch you next time on The Witch Wave.